Hey guys, what is going on? It is Gear and here, and in today's video we are going to be discussing Natsu versus Shinki. So another Fairy Tail versus Eden Zero character clash, you would say, where we are going to be comparing both characters, of course, and giving our first impressions on what we thought of Natsu at the beginning and what I think of Shinki so far through the trailers. Sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the video. So, without further ado, let's get right into Natsu versus Shinki. So, of course, let's go on to Natsu, the guy you all know, the main man himself, the guy, of course, literally is the heart of Fairy Tail, Natsu Dragneo. So at the beginning, of course, what was he like? Well, he was a very, and I mean a very, carefree. He really, of course, didn't think too much about fighting. All he was, of course, was, well, a best way to describe Natsu is that he's that trap. So like the trap that even though it's a basic trap and it looks basic on the outside, once it clings onto you, you are stuck. You won't be able to get out. That is the definition of Natsu. So Natsu at the beginning, he was, let's just say, more of the fighting type, less of the thinking type. So even though he wasn't thinking too much about the battle, about his enemies, or about the way they act, their magic, or taking anything of that into account, he of course just fought with his instinct, and he was able to of course defeat many of the enemies he faced. But of course there was a downside, that even though that is a good side, that is also a bad side, because charging in of course without thinking through your actions, that does of course land you in some big trouble. So let's take a look at Shinki so far. Well, Shinki for me so far does look like the more reasonable type. So he is much more, let's just say, open to thinking before he goes into battle, and so far of course I'm not seeing him do too much reckless stuff in the trailers. But thinking of course about the first episode, well, I'll do another review of course once we've seen the first episode, but for now, using the trailers, he doesn't seem more of the reckless type, but more of the kind-hearted, good type person. But sadly he can be easily manipulated. So even, let's just say for example, since he's had no human interactions whatsoever throughout his life, it'll be hard for him of course to distinguish who is good people and who is bad people, because of course probably in the first episode when he meets Rebecca, she's probably a good person, but she of course is going to teach him who is the bad people that he should watch out for, of course, and who of course are like enemies, who are good people. She's going to help him of course distinguish that, because if he was on his own traveling throughout the galaxy, he probably would be teaming up with bad people that just want to use him for his power. So that is my comparison so far on the two, and thinking of course about which one would be better, I will admit I think Natsu probably takes the cake for this one. It's not to say of course that Shinki is not good and everything like that and his power is bad, but it's just because Natsu at the beginning of Fairy Tail, he knew what his power was, or at least he understood the basics of it, and he of course was trying to make it better, because ever since he was a kid he learnt dragon slaying magic. Whereas Shinki on the other hand, he's not had a lot of time to develop his type of battling style or his magic style, you would say. I mean, I will give a little bit of a spoiler, he does have gravity magic, but it is slightly different to what you think it is. Of course I'm not going to go too much into that because I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but thinking about it that way, from the first episode I believe his power will awaken, whereas Natsu's, he's learned his from an actual fire dragon, of course Igneel, you know the guy. So he learned his from an actual dragon, whereas Shinki of course, even though he was taught by his grandfather of course, Ziggy, he of course had the power awaken inside of him, and he doesn't know how to fully utilize it as of yet. I mean, then again, neither did Natsu. He was just on the steps. He didn't know how to go up the ladder until of course he had to fight many battles and learn new techniques along the way. That'll probably be the same way for Shinki, but at the beginning, Natsu knows his power, whereas Shinki doesn't fully understand his power just yet, or even understand the basics of it, even though he probably is a good fighter. So I would say Natsu in this case would win. You guys let me know down below your guys' thoughts and opinion on Natsu versus Shinki. First impressions, who would win, Natsu or Shinki? And of course try and base this off the episode 1 versions, not of course the future versions of Natsu or even the future versions of Shinki, just base it off the episode 1 version. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, And of course, make sure to subscribe because like I said, we are so close to 9,000 subscribers. It is literally unreal. So make sure you subscribe down below because sometimes YouTube does unsubscribe you. So make sure you subscribe down below and let's get to 9,000 as soon as we can. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Take care and peace.